Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Transformation Leaders Podcast. My name is David Soden, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Sean Ennis. And we are going to take a slightly different approach, and we're going to focus really heavy on going back to basics. I think a lot of us have kind of been caught up in the AI craze a little bit, a lot of systems and integration, but I think everybody's kind of lost track a little bit about how to just do some of the basics things. So Sean has put together a really powerful presentation today to kind of walk us through kind of what we did know or should know, or even still should know. And if you're brand new to this whole thing and you're just starting your career out, a lot of great advice from decades of experience. So Sean, you want to kind of walk us through going back to brass tacks on, starting over again?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of synergy here in what we talk about on this channel, which is change. I've talked about this in the past. No Bucks, no Buck Rogers, right? So sales is a very big part of what everybody should be involved in. If you don't have funding, you don't have transformational change. So one of the things that I have done since starting doing a startup is it is all about the selling. The technology, as we talked about before, is so much easier to solve than the process. And the process is so much easier to solve when you have the right people. And that really aligns to what I'm doing, helping our sales brethren. If you know who Y Combinator is, they're a famous incubator. The CEO of that formerly is now the CEO of OpenAI. The current CEO, he published statistics that they are seeing a 90x, not 90%, a 90x. That's a 9,000% increase in productivity of development and delivery. And so the problem that we're seeing now is if our sales and marketing teams cannot sell 90x, that means you need fewer technologists. So sales is a very, very important thing that I believe it's being left behind. And that's really why I am spending so much time over there, because the more sales and marketing can take advantage of AI, the more productivity they will have, the more roles for our technical brethren will appear or be retained. So I have been involved, David, as you know, in sales organizations for multiple decades, marketing for multiple decades. And I've seen every different strategy known to man. And what this presentation is about is a collective explanation of what works and what doesn't work today. What worked 10 years ago, what worked 20 years ago, what worked 30 years ago has no relevance today other than to know, hey, they probably don't work today, and these are the reasons why. So with that, I'd like to start my treatise, which is a lot of times people are chasing a quarterly revenue figure instead of building a sustainable pipeline that compounds over time. So you hear this all the time. I think at the last 5 companies I've been at, they've all said the same thing. Our revenue is lumpy. We had a great quarter. We have a terrible quarter. Oh my God, we have a horrible quarter. You know, every 90 days feels like you're rebooting the whole company. Now, for public companies, it's quite understandable where that comes from. But, what happens is that it burns out the troops. It's unsustainable. And you start applying pressure, which will provide no value. Again, every bit of activity that you push on your team has to have a corresponding value coming out. If all you're going to do is yell at your team, hey, you got to sell more, well, they kind of already know that. And if you drag them in to daily calls, where's the pipeline? What are we doing? How are we moving it forward? Again, you're removing the resources to do the selling so that you can yell at them and tell them that they need to do what you're asking them or forcing them not to do. So a lot of this is your typical panic reaction on a management scale. Now, the market, there is always deals out there. There are always people who are interested in wanting to know what you're doing and what value you can provide. Every customer I have ever talked to, in their top 5, one of those is, we need to do less with more. No, we need to do more with less, right? So if you have the correct message, you have quality products and people, there is a market for you. The problem is how do you find the market? How do you keep the market? How do you ride the market, right? So here is the idea, right? Activity is not pipeline. I can pick up the phone and have 50 conversations a week. That does not provide revenue. It's activity. A lot of people are looking at it like, how many demos do you have? How many cold calls are you making, right? This isn't compounding, right? Why do bankers rule the world? Compounding interest, right? So what you want to do is, if you're having a cold call, you're adding them to your network, right? And, ton of the people that you're talking to, they're getting pitches every day, every week. They're not making buying decisions every week. So again, you're writing the hope that they will remember you when budget time comes. So these kind of purchases that most of the salespeople are trying to sell are really high stakes. They're not going to do it on a whim, right? Most of the salespeople and most of the sales organizations I've been part of, it's not a credit card sale. This is a relationship selling. This is what people have forgotten. Sales is about relationships. No matter what company you have, no matter what product you have, it does require a level of relationship. And the more complex your sale is, the higher that relationship needs to be. So pipeline is relationships, not activity, is my point. So what it is if you have proper awareness, people remember who you are and what you do. You have a network that trusts you, that would be willing to buy from you. It's just a matter of time before you get the outcome that is sales. That is the structural understanding of how I understand the business process of selling. Now, the process of selling is no different than the business process of support or delivery or whatever business process you're in. And if you've been a subscriber to this podcast, you will know that the value of AI is really that you can help automate and augment AI processes and make them more efficient. That's the goal here. So the process, right? Instead of resetting, you're going to think of it as a savings account that pays dividends. You're going to accumulate relationship equity, and that you're not chasing deals. You are creating a network, and then you are monitoring and growing that network so that when the opportune time comes, they have the awareness to remember who you are, and that's when a sale will happen. They'll reach out to you and say, hey, I know we've had this conversation, that conversation. I've seen your post on LinkedIn. I've seen your white paper that you talked about this problem. We have the budget. We want to solve it. Can you come in and propose something? That is what a sale looks like in the future. Now, a lot of people believe that it is going out and spending $5,000, $10,000 on email lists and blasting them out. David, when was the last time you bought something from an email sent to you cold out of the blue?
I can't remember a time I ever bought anything from a spam email.
A great customer of mine is in the security business. And I asked them, I'm like, if you send out and blast emails, and you land them as a customer, is it the first thing that you tell them to stop doing what you just did to them?
Honest. Yeah. I just delete them, and I have systems that I've created because I don't know. I'm so annoyed by it that I don't see them that much. I've got really good systems for it, but I typically don't do it. Now, what I do that is effective, at least for me, I might look on social media and there's some like shorts or videos or clips or things of that nature. Or if I see articles online, if I'm in the market for it, I'll click, and usually it's curiosity. And then I kind of chase a breadcrumb trail. That's at least what works for me. I've had a boss in the past to where I actually wound up quitting that job because they just wanted to send spray and pray emails everywhere. And we kept getting blacklisted. We kept getting shut down. And I told him, I said, and he was like, it's your job to keep our email servers alive. And I'm like, you burned through every opportunity, every option, every service provider that I can go through. So for all intents and purposes, your marketing machine ends here. He's like, well, if you can't do this, then I have no use for you. I says, look, I stopped having a use for you about 6 months ago because you're so thick-headed. You won't listen to reason. I'll make this easy for you. Here's my resignation. Have a great day. And his email campaign just stopped, period. Because I've talked to people that's there, and he was so angry and frustrated. But that's an extreme example. But there are people out there that are thick-headed like that, and they don't get it. They've always done it this way. It's worked for them, and so they continue to do it. But times have changed.
Well, and again, it comes down to the simple fact that, if you are getting traction and you are getting value with a strategy, great. Keep doing it. But I can tell you this. It's been a decade since the email blasting strategy worked. Now, about 5 years ago, some really smart people came up with a strategy of newsletters, right? So you get people in through whatever means you can, because email doesn't work anymore, and you get them to sign up your newsletter, which is essentially a registered email blast. But I'm seeing most people talk about, the newsletter is not working really well anymore. What is working is social media. And it isn't about, and here's the thing I want to talk about with marketing. Marketing is not telling people, hey, we have the best product, you need to buy it. That is not marketing. Marketing is, hey, here's some problems that you may have, and here's some solutions to them. What we're talking about right now is what I consider marketing, which is, hey, I know I've experienced this business problem, and here is a solution in a business process. You can do this business process any way you want. You can incorporate part of this into your process. And it behooves everyone who has a sales organization to look at this process and say, hey, how can we add or augment what we are doing in this way, in this business process? So helping people understand the business problems and business solutions and processes helps things out. So let's talk about that. And so, conceptually, David, I think you understand this. If you are going through and you're running business on a credit card, that's a bad idea that you have to pay off every quarter. It's going to create what I know someone called unnatural gymnastics.
Yep.
And those unnatural gymnastics, gymnasts aren't gymnasts for very long. So you're going to be burning people out. But the oldest profession is the banking profession. And those people last in their business for 80 years. Why? Compounding interest. So conceptually, this is what I recommend people to run for their sales organizations. Now, how that's possible is the first part. There is no sales and marketing. There's the same thing. If you have a sales organization and a marketing organization, and they are not tied at the hip, if not the same organization, you're probably creating friction that is impacting your sales. So the first part always has to be about awareness. You need to have a website. You need to have social media presence. You need to be feeding these sites. Now, some of you already know about me. I have a YouTube site. I have a website. I am posting on LinkedIn. I am posting on X, right? I am letting everybody know what's going on in Sean's world for those who are interested in knowing. And I let the algorithm hand off to my network what's going on, right? I grow my network. I'm constantly looking for people who are like me, who are in my space, and I am adding that to LinkedIn so that my network is growing, right? I am going through, and anytime there is a major event going on in the world that is affecting the industry I'm in, I am repurposing that content. I am harvesting all my competitors' information of what they are saying and comparing it to my knowledge of what's going on there so that I have a good understanding of what everybody else is saying and that I have a really sharp message of what I'm trying to say. This is very vital because if somebody were to click on my LinkedIn profile and they looked at my profile and I am saying nothing, everything that I am saying to them in direct messages contradicts everything that's on my public page. It screams scam, right? You want to be authentic. Right now, in this day and age, with all the AI generated everything, authenticity is your only approach to getting attention. Does that make sense?
It does.
So
the one thing I kind of throw out there too, I don't know if you're going to cover this later, but I'll just, if so, maybe we'll just use it as a seed planting episode as you're going through everything Sean has mentioned. As you reset, recycle, get realigned, whatever the word you want to use is, I would highly suggest that you monitor your sales cycles, because as you go back to this type of methodology, it's going to be extremely important to understand what your cadence is for, beginning all the way to end. And you're not going to do it by tracking one or two transactions. You're going to have to measure them all through time. And you may not have that answer if you haven't been tracking it holistically this way in some time. So just expect it could be a year or more until you get to this data, because you haven't maybe necessarily been doing it. So I'll leave that there. I don't know what your plan for the future.
It is incredibly difficult for you to start with $5 in your savings account and be a millionaire in a week. This is another major problem our sales organizations have with executive leadership is expectations and reality are rarely in the same room. So awareness is the first part. We talked about that is people need to know what you're doing, what problems you're solving. You need to know what other people's problems are and what they're solving. That is all intelligence, right? The second part of this is your network, right? So making sure when you do have meetings, you're prepped for those meetings, that you're talking about what they want to talk about, not what you want to talk about. You want to make sure you're capturing all the outcomes and pulling the threads that are revenue generating. You need to make sure all of this information is being stored correctly in your CRM, creating a knowledge base of your network and what's going on. And then for the customers who are interested in you, you want to be able to drip to them, right? And maybe that drip method is emails. What I have found is the best drip method is coming directly from me. Manually, if necessary. Hey, just letting you know, our release 1.2 is out. Last time we talked, you had this problem. This is a feature we added that helps solve your problem. Whenever you're interested in talk, I'd love to talk to you, right? That is hyper-personalized drip. And so this is going to allow you to grow your network. It's going to allow you to monetize your network. And it's going to allow you to understand what's going on. Now, the third and the most important thing is typically the hardest. I don't know how many times I've heard of a salesperson raise their hand and say, hey, we've been talking to them forever. They never said they were doing an RFP. We go look at their website. They just bought 3 different companies. We know they're expanding. Why didn't we reach out? Right? Finding the buying signals, knowing the budget tracking. This is another area that has to be done. Now, again, you talk to most salespeople and they're like, hey, Sean, I just want to go out and talk to customers. I'm like, I know you want to do that. As a developer, I hated doing unit test cases. The question is how much of your job is manual and how much of it is automated? And see, this is where AI can come in and help, right? Is just like on the QA side, hey, I want to automate writing test cases. Yes, you could do that, right? I want to automate creating documentation. Yes, AI can help you do that. A lot of this stuff AI can help you do. Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely.
So this is a full-time job on top of talking to customers. This is a full-time job.
How, I guess the question is, what are your recommendations as far as automating? Now we're kind of encroaching back into trying to automate some of that. I don't know if the platform that you've recently created for folks, if it does this. Otherwise, I can just plant this as a seed and people can use it kind of as needed. I personally have an AI newsletter that I do under davidsoden.com. And I have a system, an automation sequence that goes out and extrapolates information on the internet as it relates to AI news. For those of you that are subscribed, you see it, you get it, you understand it. The engine, though, what I want to get to for the purposes of what Sean's mentioning is a lot of older guys like Sean and myself that have been doing this for a really long time and decades, we've learned to leverage kind of some existing free older technologies, which is the Google what is it called? Google Alerts, and it allows you to essentially do a Google search in an automated way. Most people set it up and it sends you an annoying email digest every day, every week. You set up the cadence to that. But the interesting thing is you can have it so that it produces an RSS feed, which you can then automate, have AI assimilate it, extrapolate the information. But the point is, you can auto set up some sequence to look at this information, have it pull it all back, and it will send you signals based on how you configure and how you might set it up. So if you want to watch a particular competitor or just an industry as a whole, you come up with essentially what you would normally do physically when doing a research, typing in what you're going to type in on Google, and then just have the AI kind of pick up and extrapolate and put all of that information and then disseminate that amongst your sales teams. And then, or, you just have an activity log that goes in and says, hey, contact this client, contact this, or, hey, here's the weekly, what you need to know about our industry, or I don't know, any number of possible angles of that, but I'll leave that there. How does all of that tie into the platforms and stuff?
You're a perfect straight man, right? Perfect straight man. So the problem is, talk to customers, which is fun, interested, and engaging, makes you feel like a salesperson.
Yep.
Or do all the bedrock that makes you successful at selling. What do you think is going to happen? And this is, by the way, this is no different than the software developers, right? Yep. They know slinging code is fun and interesting and engaging, and then doing proper unit tests, documentation, integration testing, end-to-end testing is not fun. So what do you think happens? This is why we have some of the worst software ever written in my lifetime in front of me today. I don't know if you've been on websites like American Airlines or tried to book anything on Hilton.com. All the websites are garbage now. All the apps are turning to garbage, right? Because they're not being maintained. These fundamental things aren't being done in the development world. Well, this has been going on for sales for at least 2 decades, in my experience, is fundamental hygiene with sales is not being done. And it's quite understandable why. Because it's not fun and they pay you to close deals. They don't pay you to do all the hygiene to make it work, right? So what people do to react to this is we'll just hire, right? Let's hire somebody to bang phones, right? That's a $85K, $120K a year. We'll just hire people and they will do all the outreach and awareness, and they'll just set up meetings, do the meeting prop. One of the best people I've ever worked with was an inside salesperson, and he was fastidious. He would provide a PDF with every single meeting. This is what has been talked about. This is what the fit is. Every bit of qualifying is documented. And I don't know if any of you out there have ever seen or played with a Salesforce instance. It's just a waste of time. There's no valid information in there. The bare minimum, and usually less than that, is what's in there. So, okay, we're going to hire a sales ops person, right? They're going to go around and they're going to beat up the sales guys to make sure that all the necessary information is in there. So let's shoot for the smallest amount of bar and let's spend a lot of money to make sure we hit it. Is that a success strategy, David? Okay, maybe. Let's hire this kid directly out of college who is, a social media expert. They know how to post on Instagram, right? Let's have them sell something, and our ideal customer profile is somebody in their 40s and 50s. How's that going to work out? So you're going to spend all your time teaching this person who somebody 20 years older than them are to get them to do their job. And then, of course, there's the wonderful marketing consultants, which, hey, it's a great gig. I do market consulting, by the way. I've taken money to help people understand how to create better marketing and reach out to their customers. And I know it's a great gig, and I appreciate every dollar given to me. But this is all because your salesperson who knows the customer, who knows the products, who knows the industry, do not have time to do this work. So you're going to have to spend extra money, have extra complexity to be able to do this. Right? And then for the founders out there, they're in a lot of trouble because they don't have the money to do all this. So how do you get traction? Right? Are you going to be like David and one of the smartest persons you've ever met who can handle all this? Sleep 3 hours a night, or are you just going to lose opportunities, right? This is the impact of trying to do it the right way. And this is why I'm just trying to give it an explanation of why so many people do it the wrong way. It's not that they're bad. It's not that they're stupid. It's that there's only so many hours in the day, right? So this is where, and I've talked about it before, I started a company called Kinetic Tricks. I built software to help this sales hygiene side of things. Because what I think is that if I can take a Tony Stark and sit them in an Iron Man suit, they will be 90x productive, just like development people will with Claude Code. And that's my goal. My goal is to create the Claude Code for sales and marketing so that you don't need all these people. You can do things the right way because the cost of doing it is a matter of an hour a day, 30 minutes a day. And that you don't need to know AI to do it. In fact, and this is one of the patented things that I made here, is to interface with this technology. It's just email. So you don't need to know how to prompt. It's going to connect up to your email address. It's going to connect up to your CRM system, and it's going to listen and understand everything's going on. It's going to connect up to your LinkedIn and understand what's going on. And then it's going to be a coach for you. It's going to be a knowledge-based repository. So you could just send it an email. In fact, what I tell salespeople is don't think of it as AI. Give it a human name. One of the guys, he created an email box for his bot that had his middle name instead of his first name. So he just sends it like it's his, it's a secret name, and then he can ask it any question he wants. He gets an email every day saying, hey, I did all the prep work for you. Here it is. I've tracked everything that's going on, and it helps the salesperson be more productive. And ARIA, the second part, this is what's going to be monitoring what's going on in the world today. It's going to be monitoring every one of your contacts in your contact database. What's going on in David Soden's world? What has he posted about recently? Has he won an award recently? Is there anything about David that's changing that I can make it as an opportunity from a sales perspective to send David an email and say, hey, I saw this is going on. Congratulations. I'd love to work with you more. Right? And I use this software. And in the morning when I wake up, I have 10 or 15 emails pre-written as drafts. This technology cannot email anybody other than me. And this technology nobody can reach out and email this technology because it'll be ignored unless it comes from me. So I can go through here and I can go through and see, okay, here's what it found from my network. And I can decide and editorialize and send those emails out. And so everybody thinks, wow, Sean is really on top of this. when in fact, I spend 15 minutes a day keeping track of my network.
Nice.
This is what makes sales successful, right? And that's the value that it brings. Now, every meeting that I have, before that meeting, I know exactly what has been discussed in the past and what the purpose of the call is and what my job is to convince somebody to take the next action item. Maybe they have to sign an NDA. Maybe they got to sign an agreement. Maybe they need to configure their environment. All of that is documented. And at the end of that meeting, that information flows automatically back into CRM. I don't spend all my days putting data into CRM. In fact, I don't even look at the CRM because I have this employee that I can send an email to and ask any question saying, hey, what was the last thing on this deal? What was the last communication on this? It knows everything because every email, every meeting, every invite is set up and is part of a knowledge base. So I have a personalized knowledge base of everything that I'm doing from a sales and marketing and brand perspective that is available to me whenever I want. And if I do something wrong, if I send an email to David saying, hey, I really think you should buy this, and we were talking about something completely different, right? It's going to coach me and say, hey, just so you know, you sent David this, and that's a bad idea for this reason. Now, is it going to send it to David? No. But, again, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody knows that people make mistakes. But if you catch it before they do, it's a lot better. So that's Aria and Sage. What do you think, David?
I actually, I like that. I knew you had a product out there with the Sage, and are they all on the same platform and just different methods within it? Okay, cool.
Everything's cloud native, and it works with Office 365. It works with OpenAI. It works with Grok. It works with, you can run this on Olama. So if you want to go out there and buy a Mac Mini, you can run it on that. Good luck finding them. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're still available on eBay. There's a lot of people who are charging 50% margin on just keeping one in the box. So
yeah, the $4.99 days on Amazon are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's an example. So social media content, it's 10 hours a month and a 70K hire that you're going to be spending. With a 15-minute approval, it costs you $0, right? The competitive intel, you can buy the competitive intel by going to an analyst, right? But again, you're filtering it through the lens of somebody who is probably getting money by your competitor. Just say it, right? They may be very respected, but maybe they're not. And then getting that weekly structured summary, the meeting prep. How many meeting preps did you have, David, with us in the past? 30 minutes before a meeting, you have a meeting prep to talk about what needs to be talked about.
We had meetings for meetings.
Correct. What a waste. Every morning having a briefing of these are the meetings you're going to have. This is the things you need to remember. And it created for you is so pleasant. I can tell you, the CRM, I don't know how many times where I've talked to salespeople and say, I spend 2-3 hours a day updating CRM. 2-3 hours. And then again, this is post, adding things like Einstein and whatnot to help salespeople enter information. Salespeople should be editorializing, not creating and drafting. I've never met a sales guy who is great at pros.
Or anybody that even enjoy data entry and CRM. That's the bane of sales existence.
Exactly. And, a lot of people are already going down this route. So I'm not saying anything unique. There's plenty of CRMs out there that are now being, that are automatically syncing, and that's fine. What I have done is collect the best of the bunch, package it together so that you don't have to be an AI expert. You don't need to be a technology expert. I mean, this is hosted off of a VPS in the cloud for $300 a month.
Nice.
And that includes a website for all your knowledge, thought leadership and knowledge. It includes the knowledge management engine that's hosted there. It includes a CRM engine. So you don't need to pay Salesforce at that point. The drip management, the buying signals, that continuous monitoring really does help. And so the idea is AI is constantly doing work for you, but you are the gatekeeper, right? You're the salesperson. AI can never talk to a human. It talks to you. You are the master of it. Again, this is the Tony Stark concept of AI, not let's create a whole bunch of drones that replace everybody's job that are just creating AI slop and causing confusion in the marketplace. This is about controlled augmentation of experts to elevate their craft. David, I don't know about you, but I have not seen software bots that will create everything you want and you never have to talk to them. You just plug them up to customers and out spits software. That does not exist. But many people believe that's the road that sales is on. There won't be humans. I can tell you this, I'm not writing a 6-figure, let alone a 7-figure check to a bot.
Not bad.
I have to trust the person because that's probably not my money. When I give that money to somebody, somebody's going to make sure that I know the people I'm giving the money to. Because otherwise, it's kind of like fraud.
Yeah, true. I think the biggest takeaway that's important for you that you have here is a real strong emphasis on human in the loop. Everything's falling off the rails. If you look at the news cycles, everybody's trying to say AI costs more than humans. And so humans really do need to be in the loop. And if you can keep humans in the loop, you lower your cost of AI as well.
Correct. And then 10 hours of execution versus 15 minutes of approval. That's the difference that I'm telling salespeople. Yep. And again, you can have more salespeople, which means more sales, because you'll have lower amount of people who are trying to make those salespeople productive, right? So you can save a terrible amount of money and have more sales and salespeople. That's the goal here. Now, this is what I tell people. The best sales are called bluebirds. That's when your network, awareness, and timing hit just perfectly. This happened to me just 2 months ago. Somebody said, Sean, I've been following your podcast. My boss says we need to do more with AI. And I know you. I know you are someone I can trust. So what's it going to take to get this done? Right? That is the best possible sale, because they came to me, they trust me, they know the problem, they self-selected. It is just a matter of sales becomes negotiation. Right? Bluebird is not luck. It's inevitable if you have a compounding pipeline. And that is the goal in the process. Now, again, for those who are interested, you can hit me up. You can see my cal.com and my sales email, as well as hit me up on LinkedIn. But I definitely want to throw this up here because It's a 15-page white paper that's free to download. And again, it goes through in painstaking detail how a lot of these numbers and conclusions were set up. And again, I'm not asking you to buy my software. What I'm asking people to do is improve their sales processes, because the more sales and marketing gets better at identifying and helping customers and being more efficient in selling, the more likely the people out there who are doing transformation projects are going to be successful and get more opportunities to advance technology. And that's really the end goal here for me, is if I can make salespeople more productive, then that means there'll be more AI jobs for people.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. And speaking of QR codes, I'm going to pop up our QR code so that if you want to talk about this further on air, maybe you have a product that is, complementary of kind of what Sean's doing, so you can stack on top of the solutions. Maybe you just have a business doing whatever it is that you're doing. In any event, you can reach out to Sean and I on that website, that URL at transformationleaderspodcast.com, which is a mouthful. So I'm going to put that on the screen too for you. So you got two ways. You can scan the QR code to get to our website. If you're interested in kinetics, scan that big, huge center QR code. Go check all of that out. Either way, you can get to Sean and or I, or just Sean, or any number of ways to get up on there. But the bottom line is we're here every Wednesday to talk about all these types of things: leadership, AI, transformation, and any and everything in between. So if you do have anything that you want to contribute or have that conversation on air, just reach out to us and we'll be there. Otherwise, we'll see you here next Wednesday and every Wednesday thereafter. Thanks a lot, Sean. Great information. Great show as always. And we'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.